In the fall of my sophomore year, I got a job as a waiter in our town's new delicatessen. Every day after school, I'd hop on my bike and rush over in time for the late crowd, if there was one. I never could decide what was more pathetic about that place, that it was in a town that could barely support a delicatessen, or that it was run by a family that could barely support itself. A 70-year-old widower named Max, his grown son Mark, and divorced daughter Myra, they'd lived apart for years. Now they joined their savings in the deli, they argued about everything, usually in public and often in the kind of language that took the delicate right out of delicatessen. Just to keep the peace, each ran a part of the deli by himself without any meddling from the others. Max supervised the waiters and tables, Myra ran the cash register, and Mark ordered the provisions and cooked. To me, the deli was just a job. I was going to be a poet. I'd already started what I hoped would be my first masterpiece, a love ode to Donna Chickadaris, a beautiful red-headed sophomore who didn't seem to know I was alive. Every day after work, I'd ride my bike to the edge of town and stare into the river for inspiration, and instead see heartbreaking visions of Donna and her current boyfriend Miller in the back seat of his new car. Things weren't going too well with the deli either. Good deli food was hard to find outside New York in those days, and Mark was dumping about a third of every shipment in the trash. "Lower your standards," Myra would shout at him. "We're trying to run a business." "Lower your voices," the old man would mutter. "I'm trying to take a nap." Business was so slow, he'd started dozing at a table by the door. I was getting embarrassed just to be there. One day after school, I was describing the deli to some friends when a small crowd gathered to listen and laugh, including Donna. Before long, I had Donna and her friends doubled over with deli disaster stories every day. I had Max stealing my tips while my back was turned and flinging frying pans at Mark across the room. I had Myra intimidating customers for not ordering more and then touching up her stern black hair with dabs of shoe polish from a bottle in her bag. I had Mark sneaking in to water down the coffee and then weeping in his office at what he'd done. Making up this stuff was a lot easier than writing poems, and a whole lot more effective. Pretty soon kids were dropping by the deli after school to stare through the windows. One day a bunch of them even came in to see this nut house for themselves. This I hadn't expected. Luckily, Myra came through. After nursing a Coke for an hour, one of the kids strolled up to her at the register and paid with a $20 bill. Myra used to hold bills up at the light because her eyes were bad. I told the kids it was to see if the money was counterfeit. Now, as Myra raised the money, the kid snickered and signaled to his friends. "That's it," she roared. "I don't know what you're up to, but all of you, get out! Get out! Get out!" The veins in her neck were bulging, and her red eyes filled with tears. She looked so pathetic. I almost hugged her with gratitude for saving my reputation with my friends. The following Monday, Mark called to say the deli was closing. I hung up, half relieved it was over, half resentful I'd just lost my main excuse for talking to Donna. Soon after, I was in the neighborhood to sell my bike. I'd gotten a job on the other side of town, and it was easier to take the bus. Besides, sophomores were supposed to be learning to drive. The back door to the deli was open, and I went in. Max, Mark, and Myra were packing in the kitchen, barely exchanging a word. On their way to the car, Max, who had insisted on carrying the big coffee pot by himself, tripped on the curb. Myra rushed over to steady him, and they stood there for a second, just holding on. I don't think I'd ever seen them touch each other before. Mark came over, too, and put a hand on his father's shoulder and another on Myra's back. She was crying, and as he comforted her and touched her hair, I realized for the first time how soft it really was. Then they got in the car and drove away. I took the bus back home. It was the route I'd always taken on my bike. And as darkness fell, I imagined myself out there one last time, speeding under the trees, rushing up the sidewalks with no hands, pretending I was really driving a car, that Donna was really by my side. that everything you wished for in this world really could come true. Till suddenly, I was back in the bus, staring at my reflection in the window, knowing my childhood was over.